Hey legends, welcome to another week of the Virtus Performance Podcast. I have a very special episode for you today, even though they're all very special in their own ways. Today's guest is Jeremy Dooley, who you may potentially remember from episode 23, where we took a bit of a dive into his upbringing and his kind of journey through life. We talked about his work with the Reach Foundation. We talked about his strength and conditioning work. He's done some work as an actor. He was heavily involved in helping out at one of the less fortunate events that happened in Melbourne a couple of years ago. So if you haven't yet listened to it, episode 23 is epic. It's something that I think it touched a lot of people, and there were some pretty cool responses from it. So dive back and listen to that before or after this one. Our intention for today's episode was a little bit different. It was just to have a conversation. We weren't worried too much about what we each did, even though obviously it came up a little bit. We talked about meaning and connection and culture and all those kind of things. Connection kind of dove into a couple of different areas with other people, with ourselves, and with the world around us. So if you're currently walking around listening to this, take your shoes off, jump into some grass and just enjoy it, because it's something we take for granted a little bit too often. Every conversation I leave after chatting at Dools, I always feel a little better, a little bit more relaxed, and a little bit like I have a little bit more understanding about how the world works. So he's a great man. This was an excellent podcast, and I'm very excited to share it with you. However, before I do, I would like to ask for help. One of the things that I want to do in 2019 is grow our podcast listens and grow our numbers. And one of the ways I can do that is by asking you guys for help. If you enjoy any episode, please share it. That would be epic if you could subscribe to the podcast. But most of all, if you could leave a review. Reviews are one of those ways that we get up the charts and get noticed a little bit more. There's some epic reviews on there at the moment, but it's something that I probably haven't asked for enough. If you guys could take 60 seconds out of your day to give us a good review, that would be ace. If you could give us a bad review, that would be less ace, but hey, everyone's entitled to their opinion. All right, let's get stuck in. Hey, without further ado, here's Dools. My personal and business goal is to be just a little bit better every day. I believe everyone, especially normal people, have a story to tell. The Virtus podcast exists to help us all find small ways of consistent improvement by discussing the journey and experiences of each of our guests. Dools, mate, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
Round 2, 56 weeks later or something?
Yeah,
it's
a while ago.
It was. For those listening at home, this man has been on the podcast before, episode 23. Jeez, it was a long time ago. It's been a hectic year.
Shit's happened. Shit's gotten real.
Yeah.
Big year indeed.
I don't think I was asking this question back then, so I've got a question to start it off. Mm-hmm. What gets you out of bed in the morning? And if you can't say culture and connection.
I think for me, like my background's a lot in martial arts, and for me it's that whole that Kaizen, the intention to improve a little bit more. Whether I improve or not is irrelevant. It's the intent behind it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not even myself. Sometimes it's can I run a workshop better? Can I be more present with someone? Can I help someone on their journey? So, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
I like that. So, like last time we had a chat, it was a little bit more kind of chronological, talking about your story, talking about like what you've done and where you've been. I guess my intention for today's chat, and you may have a different intention or a similar intention, is to kind of dive a little bit more into like why you do it and how you do it and kind of what impact you're trying to make on the world and what day-to-day things you do, things that you teach, how it actually makes a difference. So I guess, I like the fact that you're so open book. It's like there's no fucking book, it's just a piece of paper. What's the impact or the mission that you're trying to create and trying to live up to each day?
Yeah, right. So we're starting smoothly here. We're going straight into it. My mission. I think for me, on the back of my business card is the sentence, when was the last time you truly felt alive?
That's a good question.
And so that, when was that for you?
I think, I don't know, I've went straight back to like training this morning. So I slept in this morning a little bit longer than I should have. I usually train before work. I've been kind of getting to a good habit of that. And then I kind of went, fuck, I'm going to miss training for the day. And I went, oh no, wait, this is going to be a cool learning experience for our interns who we've got two legends, Jasmine and Charlie, who are 6 weeks into a 12-week mentorship. And I kind of went, well, I'm going to get best of both worlds here. I'm going to throw them in the deep end because they're ready. They're well and truly ready to do a full session by themselves. And I'm going to get to train. And so that feeling alive was when I was kind of like fly on the wall watching them coach with a barbell on my back.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then like kind of external to that answer, my kind of brain went to standing at the top of Machu Picchu earlier this year, snowboarding amongst the trees at the top of a mountain in Myoko with a couple of my best friends in the world, like little moments like that, spending time with KP, like these are the things that come to mind when I last felt alive. And I think the thing that it can be in the most magical part of the world, or it can be in the beautiful town of Tayab, but everything for me comes back to people. It comes to spending time with people and experiencing things with people. And like this morning was a bit of a partner workout, like our version of a partner workout where one person lifts, one person like supports and gets around them, and it was a fucking ace morning. Yeah,
gets you up and about, you're jacked for the day, you're ready to roll.
Yeah.
It's funny because it used to be for me the want to have and to create moments where time stands still and those moments where it feels like just everything's slowing down.
Yeah.
That flow state, that in the zone. But I think now, over the course of the last 12, 18 months, it's still the same thing, but now I'm just thinking about it a little bit differently. So it's not about time slowing down or standing still. It's about feeling as much as you possibly can and being present while you're doing it.
I think that's an important way to look at it, like feeling whatever you're feeling. Like last time you felt alive could be the time you had really bad news and you felt devastated for someone close to you who's going through something. And like we've had in our little community, we've had a bit going on lately in terms of that. So like those things can make you feel alive, and it doesn't have to always have a positive connotation around it. Like one of the books that we were just talking about, Tuesdays with Maury, which I read for the first time during the week, and apologies to everyone that's read it 18 times, but I didn't know it existed. So thanks to Alicia Kelly for suggesting it to me. But I was reading that and like choking up towards the end, and genuinely, when that you get that like wave of, it's like sadness, but it's like euphoria, and you feel like tingle on the back of your neck. It's like, this is feeling alive, even though I'm laying down on the couch reading a book. Like
it's feeling.
Yeah,
it's feeling. Add to your book list.
Stop suggesting books, mate. I'm running out of money.
Connections by Johan Hari.
Yep.
I'd be listening to that on my way to work on as an audiobook, crying on my way to work. So you can see me in my car or in my truck when I still had my Ford Ranger.
Yeah.
Just like tears streaming down my face listening to that for the same reason. Feeling alive doesn't necessarily have to be a positive thing, can be a negative thing, can be everything in between, can be both simultaneously.
Yeah.
It's the same when people talk about defining moments, and that's something I talk a lot about in my work is, the moments that shape you and those, fork in the road moments, the defining moments. And a lot of people instantly revert to negative things, but they don't have to be negative things.
Yeah.
They can be absolutely, truly positive things that set you on a different path.
Yeah, and I think it's important to kind of like, to use your example of the hero's journey that you were talking about before, to be able to go full circle and have those periods of, I guess, struggle and frustration and pain and suffering and whatever, and then to have that followed by triumph. Like another book we were talking about before, Principles, Ray Dalio, like that little loop, that simple, like if anyone hasn't read the book Principles, there's a 28-minute YouTube series on it. It's elite. Otherwise, like just Google Principles loop or whatever, and it's just like a 5-step kind of way to success. It's like identifying the problem, struggling with it, figuring out a solution, and then just doing that on repeat. And that's life. And I think it's really important to understand that it's not always going to be fucking sunshines and rainbows, and everyone like is on this pursuit of happiness. But I think the happiness comes from when you allow yourself to feel all of those different feelings around that journey.
It's funny. I ran a corporate retreat, I guess, for a leadership team in insurance and superannuation, and they're all in that field. And we're in Queensland, like in the bush, and they're like, "Oh, it's so great to be able to disconnect a little bit, put our phones down." It's like, no, that's wrong.
Yeah,
they're actually going there to connect. Yeah. Because they're so disconnected, and a lot of people are so disconnected in their day-to-day lives. Yeah, it's just reframing things a little bit.
And I think, phones can be the most perfect tool for connection if we allow them to be, but they can be like one of those blocks to connection if we do the same. Like, it's so easy, and I'm guilty of it as much as anyone. There's a really cool Medium article about like how to disconnection proof your phone or whatever. It's like there's all these steps in terms of like getting rid of notifications, like getting rid of those fucking red little dots with the numbers in it, like setting it up so that it goes on do not disturb at like 7 o'clock at night, and airplane mode at 11 o'clock at night, all these different things. And I sat there for half an hour with one of the boys from the gym, and we did it every step. And since then I feel as though I'm like, I still check my phone, I still dive into it, but I've done little things like delete Facebook app off it. And I probably had a month, maybe 2 months ago, where I was just on my phone all the fucking time, and it, like, I was aware of it, but not able to actually pull myself away from it yet. That kind of got me started from it. And I think now I try and look at connection through, okay, how do I connect with people and with others? And sometimes that's through the phone, right? Like, we have a team Zoom meeting twice a week, 15 minutes. We just jump on and have a chat. And that's connection with the guys that I may not be able to see every day. Or it might be catching up with someone on the other side of the world or whatever. So if I can connect with people, whether it be like this, like face-to-face, having a conversation, then that's a tick in that box. If I can connect with the world around me, like I've been trying to meditate outside and going for walks and shoes off, just feeling the ground, like simple, weird, hippie shit like that, but it makes you feel fucking excellent. Like just getting down the beach, all those kind of things.
I tell this story a lot. It's a little bit of a tangent here.
I love
about
them things
that people take for granted, and how many years ago I did some work in a prison, and one of the inmates was talking about the question that was asked was, what does your perfect day look like? And it was quite an awkward, like, shit, what are these guys going to say here? But the guy in my group, all he wanted to do was stand barefoot on grass.
Yeah, wow.
Didn't care, like, if it was for 30 seconds or for 30 minutes. All he wanted to do was stand barefoot on grass.
Yeah, that's something that majority of people looking at right now could go and do. straight away, and it feels pretty bloody good.
Absolutely.
I haven't had shoes on all day until we fucking went over Common Folk. Now they're off, and I feel good.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think like, you know, the grounding stuff gets a bit hippie for me sometimes, but that ability just to connect with the ground and actually feel whatever you need to feel underneath, it's so valuable. But we don't value those things anymore. Like we have 2 inches of polyurethane rubber underneath our feet, and we've got that bounciness, and yeah, it's comfy, but we miss such a big part of, I think, what it is to be human.
And those little things are going to become even more powerful because people are so used to using that as an example. People are so used to having footwear on.
Yeah.
Or only being really barefoot around the house, or, you know, in little periods of time. But if you consciously did that barefoot on the grass, you know, good grass as well, not stuff with a shitload of Bindi Irwins in there, you know, like
shout out to Bindi Irwin.
But if you can do that and do it consciously, like the small flow-on effect that it can have can lead to a whole range of different things.
Yeah, and like we majority of the stuff we do in the gym, obviously none of the impact stuff, and some of the bigger conditioning stuff, we have shoes off, and it's really interesting to see how some people just like can't wait to get their shoes off, and other people who come in fresh and don't necessarily know how it all works, they're like, well, why? Like, well, you know, I have shoes on all the time. Like, that's kind of the point. We can obviously understand from a movement point of view, but I think it gets so much deeper than that, just from a connection. And we shouldn't count how many times we say
there's
connection.
going to be a lot.
From a connection and from just a mental clarity point of view, I think there's something to be said about having your shoes off. I wonder if there'd be a link between tradies who have work boots on all the time and mental health. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe I'm drawing a really long bow, but I think I think it's calming. I don't actually know. I couldn't tell you the psychological benefits of it, but it feels good, so do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. What do you think? Hearing you say that about tradies and stuff, and hearing you talk about the community, like, what do you do? What is your impact? Yeah.
So. And this is something I like thinking about this stuff, and I'm still trying to articulate it the best.
So the reason why I ask, in one of the workshops that I do, one of the keynotes that I do, and that we do where I work, we tell the story of JFK going to NASA when he comes across a janitor with the mop and bucket and stuff. He's like, oh, what do you do? Yeah. And the janitor's like, I help all people on the moon.
That's sick. I love that.
So, since then, and, I do a lot of work. I tell a lot of stories. I hear a lot of different things like that, and a lot of different, one-liners that are really mind-blowing. But that one's always stuck with me. And it's something that I ask a lot of people now is, what do you actually do?
I use the gym as an excuse to create community. Like for me, it started out loving sets and reps and loving deadlifts and all that kind of shit that comes with it. And I think I wouldn't be able to have used all of that to do what I do now if I didn't understand it to whatever level I understand it, and then to kind of dive into the performance aspect of it. That obviously, like being an athlete for a period of time, that was really important to me. And then it kind of, you start seeing the wider world, and it's like, okay, health's probably a bit more important, and well-being's a bit more important. And it's like, well, connection between all of those things and community is so much more important than everything else. So now, one of the guys we look up to uses the term, it's just a flavour, and I kind of like that. Like the gym, the sets and reps, whatever we did today in our group training, it's just a flavour, and it's a way to connect with both ourselves and everyone else. And I know that half the people who trained this morning went and had coffee together. I know that a few of them stayed around and talked shit for a while. A few of them had to run off to work, but I know that throughout the week there's going to be a lot of people that can have relationships and have conversations and connect with each other because of what we're doing there. And that's a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, so it's like you create a community, but what you're actually doing is you are making people feel like they belong somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. definitely. That sense of belonging and sense of tribe and being part of something that's bigger than yourself. I think, I know it's a basic human need. And I think when we, like, if you go Maslow's hierarchy, like when we have our safety and when we know we're going to get food and stuff, that's the next thing we need. And I think having a place where people can believe in something, and like there's a lot of polarizing areas of other, like, society and community, and the fitness industry, but we're kind of in that we believe in something really strongly, but it's almost not polarizing, because we take the best bits of everything in terms of like our principles and beliefs. In terms of fitness, we take bits and pieces of everything, so we kind of believe in everything, and kind of created our own kind of, I guess, training style or whatever you call it. So we're not one of those like we get jokes that we're a cult sometimes, and we love playing on it. Like, we got merch that says we're not a cult and stuff like that. But I think that cult word, add "ture" at the end, and like having that culture of people that want to be a part of something, that want to wear the merch or want to hang out on weekends or whatever, it gives them somewhere to go as one thing. And like that's always been a big part of that facility, is even if you don't come in and train, if you want to be a part of this and want to come here during the day, like one of the boys dropped in yesterday to watch cricket for a couple of hours, and like we have guys drop in before work or whatever, and they don't train and they just come and hang out, and like that's almost more rewarding than someone hitting 150 kilos on a back squat or whatever. And it's all relative to different people. Like some people are there to train and that's it. And we got to respect that and give them the best possible training experience we can. But some people are there to have a second family and to feel like they belong, where some of them some of them don't feel like that in other areas of their life. And I think that's what makes it what it is, and that's why we kind of do it. And then like trying to foster that so it grows and evolves as everyone else grows and evolves too. Like we're never going to be the place for everyone, but if we kind of understand what our beliefs are and to not have to keep using that word, but like that kind of what our mission is, and to find people that are like-minded enough to fit into that, but also to challenge the people and challenge us that, okay, the people that aren't like-minded enough, why? And are we missing something, or are they missing something, or
why is all of
whatever
that important for you? Because anyone can, like I've worked in the fitness industry, like I know a lot of people who work in the fitness industry who have a whole lot of different ideas. So why is that something that's important for you?
It's a good question.
Like, why do you give a shit?
I think we are like, our sole purpose as human beings is to evolve and is to grow in whatever way, whether it be physically or mentally or socially, is find those ways to adapt. And I think doing it in that environment, having the community around you that can support you to, I guess, I love the term transcend yesterday. It's kind of become a little mantra for me the second half of this year. It's just like, I want to be a better person. It's kind of like the Kaizen mindset, right? Like I want to be a better person. I want to improve something or improve the people around me so that they're better than they were yesterday. And it doesn't have to, like you said, it doesn't have to be me directly. But if one of the guys at the gym who's struggling to get moving and to lose a heap of weight, if I can get them in an extra time next week because he feels a part of something, or that person that's been training flat knacker for the last 3 months, I can get him to hit a PB in his dead or his bench or whatever. If I can do that, then I'm playing my part in making the world a better place and helping us as individuals and as a collective kind of evolve. But the why do I give a shit bit? I don't know, it's fun. I like it's I think it's easy, it's really hard to get stuck into that. It's really easy, to get stuck into that desire to improve that mindset, and just focus on that and just hammer that in and not kind of stop and smell the roses, so to speak. So I think, and that's something that I go through ebbs and flows of like hammering it and then forgetting, oh shit, those 2 months flew by and I didn't really stop and appreciate it. And then I'll go through like a month of like what the me during the hectic times would say I've done fuck all, but I've enjoyed every second of it. So it's like finding that balance between loving what you do and making a difference, and creating that community. So I don't know, it's an interesting one. And like a big part of what I do is try and build team and like a core group of people who will help do that for everyone else as well. Yeah, it's a good question. Like, why should you give a shit? It's I think it's something that we probably don't think about enough.
No, I was working Tuesday afternoon. I was running a workshop for a property development company, business, whatever, for all of their backroom staff.
Yeah,
60 people, and I asked them that same question, like, why do you guys do this? You know, what's the impact, that end line impact that you're making? And I told them that JFK story. And up until that point, I was asking a lot of very personal questions of people, you know, what are you proud of? And, you know, people you look up to, etc. All those questions, really easy for people to answer. Really beautiful, heartfelt responses. You know, people were really honest and revealing themselves. And you get to that one, and it was crickets.
It rocks you a bit.
Yeah, people weren't sure.
Yeah.
You know, and so then, you know, you people will start on that surface, you know, oh, I do this, you know, because you're using that as an example. You know, people are talking about creating landscapes and being able to influence, but for me,
all these buzzwords.
Yeah, that's not the answer. I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
Like, because that's not real. What I care about is, why is that answer important?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like
a couple of layers down.
Yeah, it's okay, you know, using what you're saying about building a community, like, why do you want to build a community? And then you take that answer and it's like, okay, well, why is that important for you?
Yeah. Well,
like, where does that come from?
I think, like, if you keep going layers, like, it makes me feel good. Like, we're just pleasure monkeys, right? Yeah. So it makes me feel good, and I know that it makes other people feel good. And I think we need a place, and that can be a metaphorical place, like it can be a group of people. We need a place we can go when we don't feel good, and that we know, you know, that loop will come back around. And I read a really good, I think it was a Sebastian Junger quote during the week, and it was just around, like, when you finally look back on all the pain and suffering, you realise that were the most beautiful times of your life. And I'm fortunate to have had some tough times, but not, like, relative to some other people, not even close. So it's cool to be able to look back at some of those times and go, okay, well, I was challenged in so many different ways, and if I wasn't, then I wouldn't have adapted. Like, go from a physiology point of view, like, it's just stress adaptation response, and it's the same thing when we're going through a hard time, and it's really hard to reflect on that or to see that during, but it's really easy to reflect on that when the hard times are kind of done.
That's the key thing there, is, like, I've been through a lot of shit. Like, I've swum in the deep waters before, and I've also had really positive moments in my life.
Yeah.
If you don't take that time to stop and reflect, like, that's just time.
Yeah.
You know, like, they're just bad shit or good shit, but you can turn that into actual, like, growth shit.
Yeah.
But you got to take that time to reflect, and if that is going to a place like your facility to, you know, hang out, watch the cricket for a little bit, and just completely center and relax yourself, like, that stuff's priceless.
Yeah, and I think it's having the tools and compiling the tools to be able to know how to reflect and know, like, what to actually reflect. Like, we did a workshop with Cameron Schwab about a month ago, and I still haven't called him back, but I need to. Thanks for reminding me. But one of the things he did was every 6 months he has, like, a bunch of questions he asks you. It's basically just reflection questions, but he locks himself in a room for 4 hours with nothing else. And, like, I don't remember the last time I locked myself in a room and did anything for 4 hours. So I think that ability to actually, and 4 hours is nothing in the space of 6 months, to be able to stop and kind of go, okay, well, what am I most proud of achieving in the last 90 days or whatever? Or what am I most confident about at the moment? Or what am I most excited for? What hasn't worked, and how do I fix that? And if you're able to stop, write it down, articulate it, like, I guess I journal every day, so I get a little bit of that daily. But to be able to do that properly every 3 months, can be so powerful in terms of looking back and going, well, fuck, I've actually done a fair bit. Because it's really easy to not stop and reflect and to go by and go, oh, nothing's really changed in the last 12 months, where really, like, the whole world can change. Like,
I have a alert that comes up on my phone. It'll come up, this afternoon every Friday, 4 o'clock, weekly review. What have I done that week?
That's cool.
What's been good? What's been a little bit shit? What have I learned this week? What, like, successes, like, areas where if I had my time back, I'd do it better. The debriefing is hugely important. In anything, it's it's the same as in footy. It's the game is really important, like win or lose, but it's the next meeting afterwards where you like are able to actually distill the good things that you've done well and the stuff where you could actually grow a little bit. Like that's the important part of it.
Definitely.
So debriefing.
Otherwise, you just play the same game every week.
Exactly. There's I think it's Ryan Holiday's his journal, the Daily Stoic, I think it's called. Easy one.
Yeah.
Easy one. That lives by my bedside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I flicked through it, but I haven't kind of sat there and read a lot of it. And I think being able to have those tools or the books or something that like it's almost like a tool to center us. Like for me right now, it's my journal that I just like. I was walking around trying to find the pen before when we were going to come. I'm like, I need this journal with me, and it's just. But that's a habit that I've been able to kind of cultivate because I was like, I don't have anywhere to put all of my thoughts or quotes or to-dos or whatever. Are there tools that you give for that debrief or that you use for that debrief, or is it just kind of like, how'd I go?
No, look, it depends on. I probably have layers of it. So if I'm debriefing an experience where there's people in the room, my big thing is like what stood out for you. So it's not about anything else. It's more of because I do a lot of weird shit in my work. I do a lot of weird shit. I do a lot of really confronting shit. There's generally emotion. There's always honesty and vulnerability, and that's really confronting for a lot of people. So at the end of it, to start to get people to, I guess, leave the experience and, almost do that game review meeting.
Yeah.
So what stood out to you? What's going to be the thing that you're going to walk away with? The memory, the thing that you'll remember. And then it's what are you going to take from that experience?
Yeah.
So from whatever that thing was that stood out to you, what's the learning there?
Yeah.
And then it's why. Like, why would I have done that?
Yeah.
Why would I get you to have these crazy, intense conversations? Why would I get you to reveal yourself to your team who you don't know? Like, why am I asking you to look beyond the email signature so much? And so that's, how I debrief an experience. And then for me personally, like, I'll look at it and I'll make a checklist of everything that I did from start to finish, and if that's a 2-hour experience or an all day or a weekend, I'll pull every little thing apart. What could I have done better? Where were there the fork in the road moments for me where okay, I zigged, maybe if I'd zagged it would have gone somewhere different. And then because it's easy to then get caught in the detail, and I'll take a step back and it's like, if I did it again, what are the 3 things I'd do differently? And if I was to give my work entire run sheet content to someone else, what are the things that I did really well that they should try and do as well?
We have those fork in the road moments like daily. Like every conversation is a fork in the road moment. Like every relationship we have with someone, every interaction's another fork in the road moment. And it's like, you see maybe people you haven't seen for a few years and like they've gone off on a different fork and they've travelled through fork after fork after fork, and you've done the same thing. And with every different person, like I think it's really valuable to be able to kind of stop and like look at where those forks are taking you and go, well, am I on track or not? Am I off track? It's like a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Let's hope that you're walking in the right direction, right? Like,
absolutely.
Otherwise, you're 1,000
well, then
miles
you
the other way.
Work twice as far then, because you got to get that extra 1,000 to get back to the starting point and then go the other 1,000.
Yeah, and I think that's why like like planning and reflection, those two things together are so valuable, because then you make sure that, okay, well, I am walking in the right direction. And we talked about before about the goalposts moving. Like if the goalposts do move while you're on that path and you're not kind of reassessing and reflecting, then you're going to walk the wrong direction. But if you assess it and go, okay, well, I need to take a little step to the right and then keep walking.
It's an ego thing too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, when the goalposts move, people are single-minded about their original plan, their original goal. They don't want to deviate, because then they think, oh, fuck, like I failed here.
Yeah.
Bullshit. You've only failed if you actually keep going down the path and don't realise that the goals are not where they were at the start.
Yeah, it's like that. Like, how long do you have to make a mistake, continue to make a mistake before you kind of just take the ego out of it and change it? Like, it's something that I probably wrestled with a little bit earlier this year. Was the last probably 2 years of business has always been about, okay, how do we get bigger? How do we get bigger? Like, how do we get a bigger space? All that kind of stuff. And then it's like, I don't even really want that anymore. Like, those goalposts have moved. I want to do what we're doing better, and I want to do it in a bigger way and help more people. But that doesn't necessarily mean we need to find a facility that's twice as big. It just means that we need to get better at the way we do things. And I think that it was almost like a little weight off the shoulder. Like, it was a breath of fresh air. I felt so much better when I kind of finally articulated to myself, well, I don't even actually know if I want that anymore. But that only came from probably 50 days of like journaling a full page every day, and of me finally kind of like unraveling all those kind of thought processes.
Absolutely.
Because you asked me that question like 6 months ago, what's next? It would have been, yeah, we're going to get a bigger gym. But if you ask me what's next now, it's like, well, I just want to get really, really good at what we're doing. You used the word vulnerability before. Why is that so important for creating connection and culture? Yeah, I use them both in the same sentence.
Because it shows that people are human.
Good.
So when I walk into a room, and it doesn't matter if it's, the C-level leadership team of a company, it doesn't matter if it's professional sports team, I don't give a shit what your title is. I don't care how many games you've played.
Yeah.
What I care about is human interaction. And vulnerability, it can freak people out. It can be scary. But as soon as you start to then voice that, like you're being vulnerable then. When you're voicing how scared you are of the vulnerability, like you're being human, because you're shining a light on it, and you're showing people like your own fear. It's what happens when people shy away from it and they run away from it. Is everyone's having the exact same experience. Yeah, they just don't realise it. And as soon as you start to actually step into it, the person next to you is like, oh shit, I'm feeling the exact same way. Yeah. And the other person's like, oh, I'm feeling the same way. Oh, I'm feeling the same way.
Yeah, domino effect.
You've got a team. Yeah.
Yeah, and then everyone's on the same page, starting point, and then you can start having those conversations that you need to have. Is there, like, obviously you do this a lot, but you get a lot of resistance, right? Like people not wanting to kind of open up and be vulnerable. What's your kind of like, I don't know, go to, or what's your focus when that happens? How do you break down those barriers?
There's a lot of different methods. Yeah. For me, it depends on a lot of things, like, what sort of archetype are they? Are they a rebellious person by nature? Are they just scared? Yeah. And if they're scared, then it's, how do I make it safe for them? A lot of the times my approach is to let people self-select. And by doing that, you get more and more examples of people putting themselves on the line. Yeah. Which means that the person who's scared starts to say, oh, well, that person and that person and that person are having great experiences.
Nothing to be scared about.
Yeah, and I'll ask the room, like, hands up if you respect these people. All the hands go up. It's like, well, I want to be respected. Yeah. Sometimes I've got to call people out. If there's... And you get it sometimes, and probably more so in sport workshops.
Where egos are bigger.
Yeah, you'll always get one or two people who their ego gets in the way, and I'll call them on it. Yeah. If they're being destructive of everyone else, like, I'll be the first one to be like, so why are you ruining everyone else's experience here? Yeah. You put the heat on them straight away. Yeah. Because they're not used to being spoken to in that way, especially by the presenter or the facilitator or whatever you want to call me. I think as well, one of the biggest things that happens in my work is when someone opens up and is really raw and really honest and showing huge amounts of courage. Two things happen then in the room. One, like, the first thing that always happens is it feels like the whole room shrinks.
Yeah.
And because everyone's focused, everyone leans forward if they're sitting down, or everyone's entire focus and attention is on that person. And then the fork in the road moment happens after that, where the second thing that happens is people will either try and offer advice or help that person. And the thing that I really push is, if you want to make that person feel okay and feel supported, show them your vulnerability.
Yeah.
Be honest. Match what they're doing. Because I'm not in the business of helping people. Sometimes it's a byproduct of what I do, but make no mistake about it, it is not the focus of what I do. What I do is about empowering people and creating teams and bringing people together to bring that group of people to life, to be united, bulletproof.
Yeah.
So when people go to help mode, like, the thing that then fascinates me is, okay, why do you want to help? Why are you resistant to showing your vulnerability? Are they helping because they're terrified, or are they helping because they don't know how to be vulnerable? Like, there's a whole rabbit hole that you can go down there with that.
Yeah, well, like, so many of us go into that help mode because we're like, oh yeah, solution, just fix it. But the solution, it doesn't fix it because the other person's always resistant to it. So that ability for us to, like, it's almost, like, I go through it with coaching a lot, where I know what the person needs to do, like, to help them in a certain situation. But me telling them over and over again ain't going to help. I've got to teach them and empower them. I love that word, but empower them to figure it out themselves. And, some people it takes 5 minutes, some people it takes 6 weeks, some people it takes 6 months. But if you can empower someone to actually make this, or to learn it and then execute it, then they're going to get the result thereafter, and they're going to be able to continue to get that result thereafter. We're not
teach a person how to fish. It's the same thing. Like, in my work, you'll never hear me give my personal opinion on things.
Is that hard?
It can be, because sometimes it's like it's right in front of the person, or right in front of the group, or I'm looking at the pattern of the group and I'm the only one who can see it because I'm not part of it. But the ego part wants to really throw that out there and be like, well, this is why you're doing that. This is why you as a team are constantly hitting brick walls, because you're all swimming in different directions. But until they figure it out, it doesn't mean shit. If I tell them that might be great for a couple of weeks, but over the course of the season, over the course of the financial year, it's not going to last.
Do you just kind of revert back to, like, asking the right questions?
Yeah, and for me, it's either asking questions or being vulnerable myself. And vulnerability is not just about emotion; it's just about being honest. Like, if I don't know, I'll say I don't know. I'm like, what do you guys think? Because they should know themselves better than I should. They're there all day with each other. But for me, like, I sort of view myself as, like, the Sherpa, I guess. Like, I'm not there to do the walk up to the top for them. I'm there to support them and to walk alongside them. Exactly. They still have to walk up to the top of Mount Everest, whatever that looks like for them.
How's your ability to guide them evolved, or guide your groups evolved over, like, the last, I guess, 6, 12, 18 months as you've been evolving yourself?
It's funny, like, I've been doing this work. Weirdly, I started doing this work since I was 20. I'm 33 now, and 20 years old. I had a 12-month secondment from my work, so I was working for a year at True Energy, which I don't even know if they exist anymore. But at the time, they were the biggest energy provider in Victoria, and I'm not sure if they were in other states or not. And I was there to run leadership and connection-based workshops as a 20-year-old. I had long hair. I was this, like, little punk skater, martial art kid. And, when I look back at that Jeremy to today, like, it's a completely different person. I guess probably the big thing now is before I run everything, I always tell myself that I don't have the answers. For me, that's really important, because as soon as I start to go into a room thinking that I know everything, that's when I'm going to fuck shit up and things are going to explode, and it's, the participants aren't going to get what they want and what they need.
That's pretty important. That's pretty powerful to be able to, like, stop and kind of go, I don't have the answers.
Yeah.
But I'm going to facilitate an environment where you guys can start figuring it out. You said you used to be a punk skater, martial art kid. I like that. Who are you now?
Man, I'm just a person who's on the journey. I'm just like every other person. Like, I'm going through the highs and lows of life. I'm the person who, like this year, there's been a lot of curveballs thrown this year. Some self-inflicted, some thrust upon me. We talk about the hero's journey. There's been a lot of calls to adventure this year for me. So as for me, I'm a person who just gives a shit about people. And that's my whole thing, is like, I give a shit about people. Strength and conditioning, when I was in that world, like, when we were at Collingwood, you would have known a lot more than me. When I've been at every club I've been at, there's people who, the interns and stuff know more than me, have way more technical knowledge. The only thing that might separate me is that I give a shit about the person who I'm working with. And that's in strength and conditioning, and when I was in that world, that's in coaching, which is sort of, I guess, what I consider myself now. And in all facets of my life, like, I'm just the person who gives a shit.
To flip your own question, why?
Why do I give a shit?
Yeah.
I see what you've done there. I think because I think back to the impact that it had on me when people gave a shit about me, and how that completely enabled me to transcend my existence and break out of bubbles that I was living in or potentially going to be living in. Like we spoke about last time, how Jim Steins was one of the first people to really believe in me, and he didn't care that I was from a shit area. I was constantly like messing up at school. Like, he just saw something in me and gave a shit, and so like, that's really informed a lot of things for me.
What's kind of the next evolution of Jeremy?
It's funny. It's like the last couple of years has been a lot of roller coaster things. So I think for the next 12 months in particular, I've started to make a few decisions to enable a bit more space in my life. To there's a lot of external outputs that I just had to do, but I've started to, I guess, set up structures to look after myself a little bit more, because I am my own worst enemy, because I'm so giving to other people that sometimes I'm the last person on that list.
Oh yeah, I just wrote an article for like a business magazine that one of my mates is setting up, and he's like, "Can you write one on like your specialty?" I'm like, I don't feel like I have a specialty, but sure, I'll write one on like health and how to make sure you're maximising your output through all that stuff. And I'm writing it, and I'm going, fuck, I'm just writing this for like me, like 6 months ago. And it's funny how the people that are in positions of, I guess, coaching others or facilitating others' development, how you forget to look after yourself. Like, I wrote a big chunk on sleep, and I read Matthew Walker's book, listened to his podcast, and it's just like, okay, after reading it, I'm like, here's my area that I need to work on at the moment. And I think that's really important for everyone to understand that these people who stand in front of you in a classroom or stand in front of you at work or whatever, they're going through the same shit, and they're dealing with the same issues and the same problems. They might be one step ahead in certain areas of their lives, but at the end of the day, everyone's like on that journey, just
everyone's fighting something.
Yeah. What are the areas, I guess, for you that you need to look after yourself a little bit better?
Oh man, like, my mental health has taken a hit this year in the last probably 2 years. So like, I got diagnosed with severe depression this week.
Wow.
So yeah, working on that, and that's been it's one of those things where I've probably known for quite some time. But learning what that actually means and how to do that. And a lot of people would be very shocked by that, considering the work that I do.
Well, and knowing the like kind of person you are, and I guess the work that you do, can you articulate how that feel, like not necessarily it feels to be diagnosed, but how it feels to kind of to know and like to what that kind of roller coaster is like?
Yeah, and knowing's huge. Yeah. Knowing is huge. Knowing means that you go from being in an empty room to someone in the dark to someone turning a light on, so you can see where the door is. Yeah. And how you get to that door, like it might take, years and years and years, but at least you sort of know that there's a door somewhere.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what that's been able to do. It was quite liberating to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So there's that. That's something that will just be ongoing.
Yeah.
And then my physical health. Like I spoke about it. Off air a little bit. Like my stepdad's quite unwell, and which forced me to move from New South Wales back down to Victoria. So seeing him sort of have to swim in some real deep waters, and then mum as well alongside that. So there's I've definitely a lot of hospital food and a lot of drive-through runs this year for lack of preparation. So like this year it's been about finishing off this year has been about taking some steps and setting up some structures to just allow me to succeed a little bit more. And to it's not that I don't practice what I preach, but it's to now really live that, so that I can look in the mirror after running a workshop and be I'm that guy.
Yeah. Do you struggle, if you're not looking after yourself, do you struggle with feeling like imposter syndrome, or feeling you're flawed a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. It's a question that I ask a lot in my work about that sort of, you feel like an imposter at work, or like a bit of a fraud and stuff like that. And how many people put their hands up for that, or stand up for that, or relate to that, or connect with that. I do, because, I often feel as though, why am I this person at the front of the room? Why are these people here listening to me? Why is this company paying for me to come to their work? Surely there's other people out there. And then, I'll start the workshop, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, this is why. And oftentimes it's not until after the workshop where I really understand that gravity. But every workshop, it's the same process. I will get nervous. I've been doing this for 15 years. I will get nervous running workshops.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's my content or if I'm working with someone else running it on my own.
You're still nervous.
Nervous booze all the time. All the time.
Yeah, it's a good thing to feel those nerves, because it means you give a shit. And it's something that I've gone through doing this. I have periods of time where I'll do heaps of podcasts in a 3 or 4 week period, and I'll be 6 or 7 ahead. I'll be like, yeah, it was sweet, and I won't do any for 6 weeks, and I'll be like, oh fuck, I don't think I remember how to do podcasts anymore. I don't know how to do it, and then I'll do one, and feel like I've been flown out, I'm just talking. At the end of it, I'll be like, I need to do more podcasts. It's that. When you're actually in it, doing it, you're sweet, but it's when we're out of it and we're our own worst enemy. And I was listening to Joe Rogan talking to Henry Rollins, who Henry Rollins is just fucking...
He's a powerhouse.
A cool guy. He's just doing heaps of shit. But him and Rogan talked about imposter syndrome in their last podcast. It's towards the end. I can't remember which part, but for about 20 minutes, and I'm just sitting there mouth wide open going, how do these two people... feel as though that no one gives a shit. They're two people that, I've obviously never met them, but I consume a heap of their content, and you look up to them so much, and they're struggling with it, and that kind of kicks me in the gear a little bit. And it was just a really good reminder. It's everyone goes through that shit. Yeah. Everyone feels like they're not good enough. Bring up again, Cam Schwab, incredible person. Having only met him once, and obviously you hear about it, all the stuff he's done, he talked about it as well, and really struggling with that. feeling like he didn't belong there and that he wasn't good enough. And I go through the same feeling with my team and with like coaching people and stuff like that. And it's like, it's a good reminder to go, okay, well, you know, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to know all the answers. And if you just do it because you give a shit, then you kind of...
Do you ever tell your team that?
I like to think that I probably would have, but I probably don't enough. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm good enough as a leader, or that I never feel like I don't work at it enough. Like I'm always trying to make it better, but I probably don't stop and articulate it to the team that, like, sometimes I don't feel like I deserve to be out in front of you guys. Which is it's a good lesson for me to create situations where I can be that open and honest and talk to them.
And sometimes as well, it's not about, because this is where, going back to that whole point on vulnerability, like the effect that would have, especially on the interns, like, you know, they're the basement, you're trying to raise their ceiling up quickly, you know, being that role model to put that out in front of them, the impact that can have, and on the staff that that have been around for a little while, and because it's a humanizing thing. And, you know, one of the things I love about you and following you on social media and working with you in footy is, you know, you're absolutely a real people person, and sometimes the risk in that is that you don't get seen because you're always seen. Yeah, definitely. And I kind of go through stages of being like, shit, I'm posting too much, or I'm trying to do the same things over and over again. And I think, like, it's that balance between consistency and impact. And it's just like, well, I'm not the kind of person that can kind of not show what I'm doing in a way. Like, I'd like to be open book, everyone kind of seeing me for what I am. So that consistency is just something that I try and keep up intentionally, because that's me. That's a really interesting point, like always seen, never seen kind of thing. And I feel like that sometimes. Like I feel as though, like, and I'll go through stages of being like, fuck, I'm working so hard and like the needle's not moving, but I'm almost measuring the wrong needle a lot of the time. So it's what like, for people in positions where they are struggling to be vulnerable with a team, or like, it doesn't matter which part of the team they are, whether an intern or running it, or, you know, just one of the members of the team, what's the, like, apart from being vulnerable yourself, because you said that was kind of your main go-to, what are the things, like the nudges and things that you give to create that environment? It's about allowing people to talk or express things, you know, where they don't even realise that they're doing it half the time.
Yep.
You know, like, one of the questions that I'll ask the most is, you know, I'll work with groups of people and be like, what's something that you're most proud of?
Yeah.
And the answer to that gives a huge insight into the person. They're being vulnerable, but they're also talking about something that has really positive connotations with it. And what's surprising is, in terms of bringing up emotion, that question brings up a lot of emotion for a lot of people. Especially
if you give yourself time to stop and reflect and actually give a proper answer.
Because they don't take time to stop and reflect.
Yeah, we've started implementing into those, like, 2 weekly huddles, like sharing a win and like, what are you actually proud of? And it's sprouted some really cool conversations just around, like, little things sometimes. Like, Mum's part of our team, and she'll be like, I'm really proud that I asked for help the other day, because she's super stubborn, never asked for help. And you know, then it's pump someone else up, like, cool, being awesome, like, what's this other person doing? So it's kind of that joint, one person sharing their own win and then them sharing for someone else.
Absolutely. It's a huge thing, you know. So you're sharing wins, and then it's like, when that's done, it becomes okay for other people to share their win. And that's the whole thing that I work on is, you know, like, all I'm doing is, like, opening up little things in the whole room so that everyone can do it together and sing from the same songbook. Yeah.
How do we make the impact you're making in groups in a wider community by community kind of scale?
That's the great question.
The big question.
Yeah. And it's something that I think about quite a bit is how can I take, I guess, the feeling of participants at the end of my workshops and give that to the world. And I'm not sure yet. It's something I'm still trying to figure out. There's talk of, moving to digital platforms, but then you lose the human factor.
And you're just another piece of content to consume, right?
Exactly. We do large-scale stuff, and I do large-scale stuff, but I think it's about when someone comes to my work and experiences a workshop, it's about them taking it into their lives and doing it then. And that's, the stuff that really fills me up the most is when someone sends an email from a year before who was in a workshop and be like, since I did that, I've done X, Y, Z, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Little things like starting a meeting at work and not going straight to business, but talking about what's front of mind for you at the moment.
Yeah.
And some people fucking hate that shit.
I know, right?
If they weren't in my workshop, they're like, what is this hippie shit? But
I think that's just ego and fear of vulnerability.
It's fear of vulnerability, fear of something different. Everyone's always scared of something different.
Yeah.
I stole that line from Cool Runnings, but it's so true. But
people don't like what's
those
different.
Things, those things can have a huge impact. The little things that touching base before you actually get to business can have a transcendent impact.
Do those messages and emails and things, do they help you kind of find something to grab onto when you're swimming in deep water yourself?
I think I think I've always been really lucky in that I work so consistently in running workshops and I make everyone fill out evaluation forms so I know what I'm doing is either going all right or areas where I can improve.
Yeah.
So I do get that consistently. I think the thing that helps me through those deep waters is giving myself the chance to talk and to open up and or to write and to get thoughts out or to go to the gym and do something physical. The iron doesn't lie, that sort of perspective. 100 kilos.
Love that shit.
100 kilos. Yeah. Henry Rollins talks about that shit a lot. He's doesn't matter. 100 kilos, 100 kilos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're having a good day, a shit day. You know that in that moment you're present because you have to be. It's 100 kilos.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that kind of someone will get out of a set and wow, that felt heavy. Didn't feel heavy last week. And it's it's okay. You're not exactly the same person you were last week. You haven't had the same day. You haven't there's so many different variables that you probably haven't thought about. And people get so frustrated themselves when they can't do something they could do a week ago. And it's just look at the last 2 days. How are you feeling? Up top, have you had, you've had knowing most of my guys fairly intimately, it's helps with coaching because I can kind of say just stop for a second, have a think about the last 2 days you've had, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I guess and it's that being kinder to yourself and being able to kind of go, oh actually I'm doing pretty well, showing I love the bouncing between two ideas, one being showing up's enough and the other one being showing up isn't enough. And it's well, you just got to show up. If you're struggling and things aren't going well, you've just got to show up. If you're pumping and everything's rolling, showing up isn't enough. You have to be intentional and make sure you make the most of it. And it's almost fighting between two opposing ideas, but I think it's really important to do both at certain times, but to know yourself and be aware of yourself well enough to go, okay, today I just need to show up.
Yeah. The footy club that I work for, that's our big motto is turn up.
Yeah.
We'll ask players have you turned up today? Did you turn up? And
that can have two different connotations, can't it?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's a real driver, behaviour driver, and a metric that we look at. We look at a lot of different things at Oakley, but turning up is a huge part of that. Physically, mentally, being present.
It's huge.
Turn up, and it's not just for yourself; it's turn up for the person next to you.
Yeah, any team has to go in with that. Otherwise, you're not a team; you're just a group of individuals hanging out together.
Yeah, exactly.
What's that kind of being present and like presence is like a big buzzword at the moment. I don't know. It's one of those things that keeps coming up. What is being present? What does that mean?
I guess mindfulness is probably the buzzword in life and society for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But it's just being very aware of what's happening in that moment. So like right now, I know that I'm sitting here talking to you. There's a bottle of water sparkling here.
The bubbles are popping.
Yeah, like very aware of that. As soon as you start to think elsewhere, like bang, you're gone. You're not present anymore.
Yeah.
And for me, it goes back to like right at the very start of this conversation, talking about those flow, the being in the zone to feeling alive, like present.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be simple, like, I ride a motorcycle and like you can't be thinking of other shit. Like when you're riding a motorcycle in Melbourne, like do that, bang, you're gone.
Yeah, too much shit going on.
Martial arts, when I was still competing, like you have to be present.
Every second.
Yeah, acting, like when I've done that, you have to be present because there's always direct results in those things when you're not. Life, you can get away with it a little bit, but I guess the thing in life is then it becomes death by a thousand cuts. You don't realise the cost by not being present because it's just gradual little incremental things.
Yeah, and next thing you know, that 6 months, 2 years, 3 years just goes like that and you don't really get to experience it and appreciate it.
It's like how many relationships do you hear fail because one person will say they weren't there enough or I wasn't there enough. And it's the same shit.
Yeah, I got a really good quote about that somewhere, but I just swapped into a new diary, so I think it's in the old one. But it's about love. Love never dies. Like it's always either you lose touch because you focus on other things or something like that. And I just thought that was the most perfect like little analogy for it. I don't think I'm gonna find it. There's too much shit going on here.
A lot of words in your diaries and journals.
Yeah, but I don't know, not super important. All right, I've got 3 questions of you to finish off. It's a little bit stealing from what we were talking about before, but I want to kind of do one reflection, one now, and one looking forward. What are you most proud of, kind of like achieving or doing or experiencing this year?
The fact that I moved state very quickly to support my family and to be there for a support and left would have been real easy to stay living where I was, doing what I was. And so the fact that I did that without a hesitation and I'd do it, and it cost a lot, like there was a lot of collateral damage with that, but I would do it 100 out of 100 times to be there for my family. And that, throughout the whole year, and there's been a lot of moments where it's like, I wish I had my time back, but that's one thing where I would do it every single time.
I like that. Yeah, it's good to be able to kind of know that you do that and know that even though there's collateral damage, there's sacrifice to everything, but to be able to, and I'm sure your family knowing that you would do that time and time again, it's pretty epic. It's huge. The current one, what are you most confident about?
What am I most confident about? That's a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question before. And that does not happen very often.
Cheers. It took us an hour and 4 minutes, ladies and gentlemen.
I get asked a lot of questions in my life and a lot of all sorts of things, but I think what I'm most confident about is that everything will be okay. I don't know how long it'll take, but it will eventually. It'll be okay.
It's a really good answer. Yeah, that's good. What are you most excited for?
I think I'm pushing really hard to have a holiday next year. That's one of my big things that I really am shit at is taking holidays.
Yeah.
And doing things like
there's your chance for reflection.
Yeah. if I have a sick day, I can't help but like lift up the laptop lid and start like doing work.
Doesn't surprise me.
Just having a break and getting out of my comfort zone a little bit with that. So
what's the is there a place or an experience you want to dive into?
I wouldn't mind going to. I mean, there's so many things on my list right now. From going to South America, and spending a month in Brazil, jiu-jitsu in the morning, surfing in the afternoon, or vice versa.
Yep.
Doing that for a month. That sounds shit. Not.
I do it, I dare.
To going back to Thailand and spending a month or two at a kickboxing camp and just like singularity, focusing on one thing every single day and just like sharpen the sword, so to speak.
Love that.
To going to Malta and catching up with family. There's a lot of things. I'm trying to convince my cousin to get a motorcycle license so that we can then ride a motorcycle from either the south to north of New Zealand or north to south. That's something that's on my bucket list to do at some point. So any of those things would be nice.
Book one in, mate.
Yeah.
I use the term positive pressure with that stuff. It's like I did the South America trip when I didn't really have the financial stability to be able to do it, and we didn't have all the structure in place for me to be able to leave. But I did it 6 months out knowing that, well, I'm going to fucking make that happen over the next 6 months. And I did, and it worked. And like there were heaps of holes opened up, and like not bad holes, but we realised what needed to be filled. And that has, all it's done is strengthen everything. And I think you've been able to kind of book that a period in advance. We'll kind of go, okay, well, I've got that coming up. Now I've got to dive into some deep work or...
Yeah, there's... it'll definitely happen in 2019.
I'll do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got some pretty exciting things happening in sport that I can't really talk about yet. So hopefully next time I can tell you about that whole process.
Definitely.
But yeah, definitely. I think I'm probably leaning towards the Brazil or the Thailand thing. And the thing that I'm not allowed to talk about, I'm really excited about doing because that'll be huge.
Yeah, good.
And I think I'm also just really excited to work with different people this year. Like I've cut my hours a little bit at work to just do a couple of days a week. So I'm doing 3 days a week and just facilitating and creating content to then do in the workplace, which, that extra 2 days of the working week means I can do a bit more freelance stuff and go into other companies and sporting teams and do my own thing, which...
Pump that creativity vein.
Yeah, exactly, and not have to do things to a certain structure.
Yeah,
so
I like that.
Looking forward to that.
Good. How can people either book you to get into their businesses or just get around you?
Yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn. That's the thing. I've been told I need to improve my LinkedIn presence, so I've been doing that the last couple of months.
Good.
So just Jeremy Dooley. Look for me on LinkedIn. I've got a big beard. You can't miss it.
Beautiful, beautiful beard.
Thank you.
I swear you shaved it and it grew back in like a week.
Yeah. I had to roll the dice that time, so I was either shave my head or I thought I'll shave my beard.
It's so good. It's so thick.
So yeah, I'm putting up stuff around like workshops that I have run and focus on that, and also like my sort of thoughts on coaching and mentoring. LinkedIn's the best place to get me.
I'm getting you in for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're making it happen.
For sure.
I found that quote to finish off. Didn't mean to throw my pen then. Love never dies a natural death. It dies because we don't know how to replenish its source. It dies of blindness and errors and betrayals. It dies of illness and wounds. It dies of weariness, of witherings, of tarnishings.
Wow.
Ponder that.
Yeah.
See you, team.
Mic drop.
Mate, thanks for coming.
Cheers, thank you.